So I'll call the meeting to order. It's 3:01. And I'd like to take attendance. So we'll start Nick,
Nick Pappas here.
Phil,
Bill Kameza.
Phil,
Bill Brewer here.
Dan,
Dan Stapleton here.
Carleen,
Arlene Hempel here.
and I am here. Okay, so everyone is here. So the first thing I would like to do is approve the minutes of the June 4th meeting. So are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, and second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I didn't see who made the motion to approve though.
I did.
Thanks, Phil.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Aye.
So no one's opposed. So the motion has passed. Great. So chair's comments. I just wanted to update everybody on how the NRC is proceeding with the new member. So as you know, I sent an email to Jim Smith, copied you all on it. Ultimately, Carleen and I ended up meeting with Jim. We shared our thoughts with him on how to proceed. I shared our vote, and he listened to both of us, and he went back. He presented it to the NRC at their next meeting, and they ultimately decided to use the process that was previously used, meaning that whenever a new member comes on board, they will have to have a letter of intent, go through an interview process, and then are chosen from there. So anytime we have a new member that comes on board, that's the process that will be used. So I said to Jim, I said, well, since I'm the chair of this committee, I would like to be on the interview committee. So the interview committee is going to be myself, Rose, and Jim. So that's how we'll proceed.
So does this mean we're starting it all over from the beginning or from the pool of two other candidates who had raised their hands?
From the beginning. And the candidates that had already applied can reapply again. So that was what the NRC chose to do.
What's the timeline, Chris? What's the deadline for people to submit their names?
I have no idea. Jim's away
Okay.
for 2 weeks. So don't know. Have to talk with him when he comes back.
I
Unless
will
you-
say that I was tasked with just reviewing, the first time around what was sent out. So I at least pulled what was put in the bridge, which Sarah, the past chair of the NRC, had drafted a note for the bridge, and then DNR had drafted something for Concord news and notices to go out. So we're working on modifying those, but again, Jim's out right now, so haven't been able to get feedback yet, but we're hoping to get that process started very soon.
Yeah, he said he was out for 2 weeks, so I would presume that it wouldn't be until he came back, right?
Yeah, he's been on his email a little bit, but not much at all. So we'll see. But that's what I can at least offer.
Okay, so that's where we stand right now then.
Well, I was unaware that we were it was going to be more than just Chris going to meet with Jim, almost a subgroup if Carleen joined. Is there an explanation for that?
Yes, I can jump in. I sent a note to Jim expressing my dissenting opinion from the group, and CC'd Chris, and just reinforced that I thought we should have a more open process than going with the original members. And I CC'd Chris and Rose on that. And then Jim wrote back to both of us and said, I've never met Jim in person other than in my interview. And so he said, I'd love to meet with you, Chris, and Carleen and just talk about this. And so Chris suggested we meet at Saltbox, and we did.
I think it would have been more appropriate to have that discussion during our meeting last time that, Chris is the chair of our committee. And I think it was, I'm not entirely comfortable with how that whole thing happened, with you kind of interjecting yourself into the meeting, even though you were apparently welcomed by Jim. But I just think it's not quite fully appropriate the way it was done.
I appreciate that, Phil. I was just offering further context to the dissent, and just reaffirmed what I thought was an important point to make. And that was that. I mean,
Well, we had a vote. The vote was pretty decisive. I don't think it was necessary.
well, I appreciate that. It wasn't, it was a 3-2 vote with Nick not being there. And I just wanted to express what I thought was an important point. But it sounds like from what Chris is saying, they thought that the due process of for any position, not just this position, but any position, which is opening it up to the broader population, was the way to go. And
And
so it
that
looks
may
like,
be, Carlene, but the conclusion of this meeting is completely different than the process that you decided to embark on, which I think if that, I wouldn't want that to happen again without it being discussed in one of our meetings first.
sure. No, I appreciate that. Again, I just thought it was important that Jim heard a more involved and expansive dissenting opinion. And so I sent him a broader note. I'm happy to share that with you. It was just a few sentences, but
No,
I'm happy to share that with you.
don't need to see it, Chris. I'm sure it conveyed what the vote was, and I think as a committee, at least that was my conclusion from our last meeting, that she would be the one representing us and represent fairly the entire discussion and conclusion and vote.
And she did. She did beautifully.
Okay, we
She
didn't
did
need
in
you
her
there.
original. She did
I'm
in her
still
original
wondering-
email, and she
I'm
did in our
I'm-
conversation.
I'm still wondering why you felt it was necessary to go, but I think we should drop it. I just hope that it can be a little bit more streamlined in the future.
Yes, I appreciate that. It's just a dissenting opinion, like the Supreme Court gives, dissenting and affirming positions.
Unnecessary dissenting opinion.
I appreciate that, Phil. I thought it was necessary, but
Okay.
again, Chris handled it beautifully on both counts.
I agree that we should move on. Okay. The other point that I wanted to bring up was the fact that the Friends of Warner's Pond held a water chestnut pull on June 27th, Saturday, June 27th. I had invited all of you. I know that it was somewhat of a last minute, but it was very successful. There were about 13 people that showed up. We figured about 20 bushels or so, which was less than previous years. So it seems to me that the yearly pulls are working.
Good.
So that's a
Great.
good positive. So,
Chris, can I check those numbers? 13 people, 20 bushels?
yes.
Terrific.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the stakeholder meeting review. I want to thank you for the transcript of the meeting, and I hope everyone had a chance to read it and perhaps have some comments about it. I think it was informative, and we were able to hear from 6 groups. And actually, Carlene represented 2 of them, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and Suasco. And so at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Phil and Carlene to advise their comments about the meeting.
And Rose, I don't know if you received my email this morning, but I've been somewhat busy, so haven't had it or didn't have a chance earlier to send that report to you. Did you see that? And are you able to share the summary?
I honestly just saw it recently. A few of you actually emailed me today, and I just couldn't
No worries, Rose. No
manage
worries.
today. So I did. You're welcome to run through that now, though. I think it's a good launching point for your discussion.
Sure. Well, thank you. We had some great parties there. The one notable exception, which I think Carlene, you and I wondered about, was the Recreation Commission. So why they weren't there, and if there was an edict that they not be there, or whether it was just an omission. But Peter Alden led off and made the point that he didn't think the town should spend a lot of money or effort on eradicating invasives until we're sure that they're not accidentally reintroduced on the bottom of someone's boat, for instance. So that's going to be a larger discussion. For instance, if we get a boat dock or something like it at Giroux. But I think Peter was very glad that he was there. He was a great witness for the whole effort. Jim Collins was there and encouraged us, wanted to make sure we we're going to have a baseline as part of the study so that it could be compared with further studies that we do during the course of our committee meetings. Julia Whiteneck was there representing the Scouts, so it was good to get her input. And several other people made comments, but everyone certainly was very encouraging as to continuing the use of the pond. Carlene, what else would you have?
Oh, I thought that was a great review, Phil. Yes, it was a good group. I think people were interested in sort of, you saw if you read the transcript, sort of reiterating again their stance, which, wasn't entirely necessary because everyone is on the same page. But it was good to see the cast of characters. I thought there was great representation. I was thrilled to have MCI there. I thought that was a really important constituency to come to the table, and they were enthusiastically there. Rec department, didn't think it was necessary. I think because there's a little bit of confusion about where Giroux Park's management is headed. And so I think rather than anyone insert themselves, they just stayed back for this round, which is fine. But I think in the future, Giroux is so integral to this discussion, and whoever's going to be monitoring Giroux or overseeing it needs to be considered a primary stakeholder. The Friends were there, the Friends of Warner's Pond, but also the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, through me, and Suasco through me, and then the WCAC representation was there as well. I thought it was a good group. I thought it was a vibrant conversation. Oh, and Oars, Jeff Collins, not Jim Collins. I thought it was a vibrant group, smart, dynamic, and they seemed up for meeting again in a year or so when we have something to actually report to them. So, all in all, I thought it was a productive day.
Agreed.
Two things, a couple of things that came to mind for me is that, Carlene, you mentioned both of them, that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is interested in providing grants to organizations related to or adjacent to the trail. I thought that might be something that we could look into. And the other note was that you said there was $191,000 with Suasco that they want to spend, and they are also interested in creating ADA accessible docks. So I thought that was of interest as well. That could be something for us to look into. Or
yes,
creation.
Both of these entities are so connected adjacently to the Warner's Pond, and both of them have robust grant programs. And so these are future opportunities for us to think about and to remember, and I'll make sure that both of those stay on our radar.
Yes. Yeah. And one last note is that I think overall the feeling was that people wanted the Warner's Pond to be cleaned and kept and whatever. And I do feel that the Oars perspective, though, was he basically said he believed that post-dam removal impoundments can be managed, but noted that this is not what we're doing right now. So I got the sense from him that he was not totally on board with cleaning up the pond, but rather just kind of biding his time and watching to see how things go. So that was my impression.
Yes,
But
he had
overall-
mentioned that he had a nuanced response to the whole stakeholder meeting and kind of expressed some negatives first, and then came around to suggest he's taking a wait and see attitude.
Right. I see that Dean has his hand raised. I'm sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I am not apparently on the distribution rows. The transcript that went out, I was unable to find or did not get. So therefore, I was unable to be aware. I was unable to attend. So if you could just add me to your distribution list, I'd appreciate it. That's my,
You're
Right.
absolutely right, Dean. When I send minutes out, I send them to the group.
Yep.
And I haven't been sending those minutes to Paul, and so I didn't think to send to you, but I will correct that. Thank you.
Well, the problem was I had missed that meeting. It was
No
not recorded
worries.
because it was held at the Fowler, and that was the only source of information. So when I heard that there was a transcript, I was like, wow, I
Yes,
appreciate
absolutely.
that. So thank you.
I'll send it tonight, Dean. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. That's it. I will drop back to just listening mode. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I've a few questions and comments. So the one question is MCI and the Southfields and if how it was left or what you guys, I'll go through all my questions first before you respond. But how it was left so we could have a follow-up meetings with them specifically. So that's question one. Question two is,
Dan, sorry, how many questions do you have? Because it might be easier to answer these as they come along.
just two more.
Okay.
So question two is that when we engage the pond management consultant, we're really going to need to nail down these recreational improvements. So I don't know what the process is from taking it from that first meeting to something that really resolves the specifics of that. And then the third comment is relates to the transcript with Jeff and Horace. And there was a little bit of an implication that Warner's Pond is adversely impacting downstream water quality. So we probably are going to need to consider addressing that in our monitoring plan. So I'm just bringing that point up.
All excellent points.
Yep.
Oh,
My response
did
to your first question, Dan, would be follow-up was left, as Carleen indicated, loose, that all of the groups represented at the stakeholder meeting do want to have some follow-up, but I think it's going to be definitely more when we have something to report. And pretty much the same answer for your second question about recreational improvements. That's going to be as we get into the process to see what's possible.
Yeah, but I think Phil, just note, I think I would reverse that. I think we want to know what the different stakeholders with some specificity, what their goals and objectives are. And then we can see if those are achievable with the pond management and also how they could be integrated into the pond management. So for example, if it's expected to put a dock at Giroux or a landing, add some additional landings elsewhere, we would really need to nail that down now. So we can talk to our pond management consultant about integrating that. When it comes to things like Scout Island, we really want to work out with them, like where are they going to want to launch, where are they going to want to land, where do we need to create a navigation channel. So it's those kind of details that I think we need to work out in advance and then present to our pond management consultant.
Dan, I like to jump in. Dan, I partly agree with you, but here's what I want to say. Working with the pond management consultant is going to be iterative. We're going to be going back and forth on a number of issues. I can imagine everything won't be nailed down right away. And I think it'll take some time for us to work this through. For example, what I'm hoping ends up today, being the chair of the Gantt chart, is that we absolutely get to vote on that pond management RFP today, and not to try to make it larger or more elaborate or something. I would just as soon us move forward on that, unless there's something major that has to be done. And so I wouldn't want necessarily to be caught up in where the dock should go or anything like that at this point. If that's what you're suggesting, it may not be what you're suggesting.
No, I'm not suggesting that we hold the RFP up. What I'm saying is that within the RFP, we've committed to providing that information to the pond management consultant at some point early in the process.
At some point, that sounds fine. And
I'm asking Phil what would be
ourselves about what kind of dock we should have, et cetera, et cetera. So
That's already in the doc. That's already in the doc, Bill.
yeah, okay.
Can I interject something here? So a couple of things with the with MCI. I mean, and Dan, I know that you had brought this up before about the land there. And I asked Christine about that. I said, we are, adjacent clearly to your land there. And she said, I really can't tell you much about it. She said, Jeff Quick had asked her to come. She said, really, I'm just here to take notes. So that's something that we need to follow up with her because she hopefully shared that with Jeff, but she didn't have any answers for us. And then as far as the dock, that's something that the Recreation Department has put in a CPA request. They have pushed that out for a year, but I do believe that what they want to do is look at having some sort of dock. And the purpose of their request was to figure out where to put that dock at Giroux. So that's all I know about that. And then the third thing is regarding the scouts. And when we went back to the task force, when we were talking about all of this with the scouts and, a dock at Giroux versus a dock at, or dock at the boat launch, the scouts basically said, look, we need it at the boat launch because of the fact that we come with many canoes, we come with rowboats and whatever, and they have like 8 different canoes and kayaks, and there's
And
no way
and
they
camping
can
gear too,
possibly,
Chris.
Yeah, and camping gear.
Right.
what camping gear, and there's no way that they can possibly get those canoes into the water right now from Giroux, and with car access, they can do it from the boat launch. So I think that's the answer to that question.
I agree.
Yeah,
and
and
speaking,
I will note, I
speaking
didn't
from
expect, I was
speaking
just going
from
to say,
experience speaking from experience on the camping thing, the younger, when my son and I did it, he was a Cub Scout, so they the boat launch makes perfect sense because it's the closest thing, and if the water's rough, they still want to be able to go. So, I agree that boat launch is the best place, at least for the Scouts. From Giroux would be a long haul.
Right. And I know, Nick, your hand has been raised for quite a while. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just waiting for all that stuff to die down. So the one thing I was hoping we might get out of the stakeholder meeting was some involvement from people who might be concerned about some approaches like the use of herbicides. And because I think downstream, that's the one thing I see is perhaps the most contentious in terms of whatever approaches we come up with for controlling the vegetation. So just a thing going forward, if we can figure out who to involve, who would be interested in that topic, I think it would be beneficial for getting that involvement now rather than having huge objections raised downstream.
I agree, Nick.
I also would like to hear what the pond manager has to say.
So
I mean, we're hiring them for that reason. Yes, we all have our personal beliefs and our beliefs and whatever we think is right or wrong. But I think I would like to hear from the pond manager as
Agreed. But it would be nice. It would have been nice to be able to tell the pond manager what we already know some of the concerns in the community are.
Well,
I think the
I mean,
only comment
in the group.
sorry.
Go ahead, Rose.
I was looking at some of my notes from the stakeholder meeting as you guys were talking through that. So I know at least Jeff mentioned one thing, not necessarily worried about herbicides and let's say, it flowing downstream, but he did just something to consider potentially a fast die-off of plants and very much increasing oxygen demand with all that decomposing plant material. But you could also have it removed afterwards. That was one thing that came up. But otherwise, I don't think it was discussed a ton at the stakeholder meeting.
Yeah, I just think it's an explicit topic. I mean, I've seen it come up historically, the issue of herbicides, whenever some private group, a homeowners association, brings forth a plan to use herbicides, almost guaranteed an abutter will have serious objections and it can derail the whole process. So I'm just thinking it's better to start discussions early and know what the issues are and who's concerned so you can involve them rather than waiting until you have a plan together and
So
then.
Nick,
decide.
I think it's an interesting point, and I just wonder how we approach it because, as Rose mentioned, it wasn't clearly identified as a concern with the stakeholder group, and so
Well, that's
do
because
we
you had a
wanna-
stakeholder group that was largely people who were interested in using the pond.
That's true, but they also are
The
interested
people,
in
the
using.
people I'm talking about probably don't live anywhere near the pond and they have environmental issues. Those are the people. Because ultimately, those people are going to vote at town meeting someday about whether or not to fund things that we're developing proposals for. Not this year, but down the road.
Mhm.
I
I
think,
think we
You
just
can
need to be-
ignore this. You can ignore this if you want to, but I want to go on
no,
record.
No,
just
we won't
note that-
ignore it.
that the RFP is written in a way that has a series of meetings with our committee. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity as different alternatives are looked at to provide direct input along those lines.
That's what I see
By
too.
whom? By whom? We aren't the people I'm talking about.
No, I understand that, Nick, but I think, a lot of that can come out through the works. And I will note certain alternatives like herbicides require a special permit process that some of the other alternatives don't. So I think a lot of those concerns will flush themselves out pretty fairly
Okay.
during the process. But I think
I
the
was just trying to get
the
it to
point's
be
well
worked out.
taken.
I'm just trying to get it to be worked out before you go to NRC with a
Yeah.
request. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
We hear you, Nick. Any other comments about the stakeholders meetings before we move on to the RFP?
Carlene's baked goodies were a big treat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Rose.
just want to, kind of reiterate my previous comment. My point was simply this, that if I guess if Phil and Carlene are going to continue with the stakeholder outreach, we have to build into the schedule the process in order to identify with some specificity what these recreational improvements are going to be and requirements are going to be, so they can be brought into the pond management consultant. The pond management consultant is not, as the way it's currently structured, hired to advise us on what those recreational things should be. It's simply, if we say we want a navigation channel from here or there, they have to see if that's achievable.
Right.
Did I freeze?
Yeah,
Yes.
you did, Phil.
Okay. All right. So there's really a couple of things that have come out of
Can you
this
hear
that
me?
we need to.
Can you hear me?
Phil, we can hear you, but at least you're not moving. Oh, there you are again.
Okay.
Okay.
Is recreational improvements and issue of herbicides from Nick. Okay.
I just wanted to mention really quick, and you guys touched on this already, but I thought it was interesting at the stakeholder meeting. I think we've been the group's been very focused on, the ecological issues, which is great. That's obviously a large part of the charge, but I felt like we learned more about the recreation aspects, and a lot of stakeholders brought up accessibility and access for all ages and abilities, and I feel like that's something that didn't come up as much amongst this group, and I thought that was really helpful as something to keep in mind, because I think we were like kind of adding on recreation as like we didn't have as much, I guess, time spent researching and stuff. So I thought that was a helpful thing to keep in mind.
Good. Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? All right, so why don't we move on to so there's, before I just leave that then, so I'm assuming that Phil and Carlene, yes, you two are going to be the point person on stakeholders moving forward, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Happy to be. Happy to be. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a couple of follow-up items to that. And one
Yep.
is following up on recreation, right? And the other is following up with MCI.
Yes.
Okay, so I see 2 points of something you need to do right now. And also, I don't know how to work in the issue of herbicides, Nick. I think that's more of a conversation, I think, but you can tell me wrong, conversation with us and with the pond manager and I don't know. That's what I'm
It
thinking.
needs a lot more
Let me
investigation.
say it this way.
We don't even know what kind of herbicides we're
Right.
talking about yet.
Right.
So
If-
let's let that work its way through, I think, a little longer.
Yeah,
personally.
and herbicides were one of the few methods that's actually been performed at Warner's Pond.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it has.
there are a lot of sort of technical
So,
issues associated with herbicides anyway. So I'm not sure just on its technical merits it's going to end up being there. So
I think it's to be
TBD.
determined.
Yeah.
And Nick, I added some language to the RFP that I assume we'll discuss that will apply to this.
Discuss that.
Okay.
Okay, so RFP review. Okay, so initially Nick and I had started the overview and scope of work. Dan had mentioned that he wanted to review it, so I shared that with him. And ultimately, he ended up writing up the entire RFP. So Dan, thank you so much.
Outstanding job.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to thank you guys, Nick, Dan, Chris, Rose, all four of you. I know spent a lot of time. It took me a while. Personally, I'm going to say this first. It took me a while to go through it. I had a hard time looking at it and figuring, God, I really want to read 22 pages of this. But I did, and I read it more than once. And as I got to read it, I appreciated it more for its the way it holds together. It's elaborate, it's detailed, just enough detailed. Frankly, I was worried you would get too prescriptive. You didn't, although it gets there. And I hope we don't change a lot. In fact, I hope we don't change anything because it seems to hold together very well. So I'd be very careful about making changes in it. And I hope we can move it forward. I'm pretty impressed by it. I think you did a great job. The one concern I have, and this is just an anxiety and may not have any reality, is this going to scare people off? Is it too long? Is it going? But I don't know what this is like. Rose, you may be able to answer that. I've never done a public RFP before. I've worked in private, but so I don't know.
Bill, I would just note about 60+% of the document is the town's boilerplate.
Okay, that's helpful to hear. I really liked, frankly, your page. I think it was page 5 when you laid out in very simple and clear language about the purposes of the pond management consultants and their work. You had 6 points, which I thought were right on target. So, so anyway, I think it's very good.
Okay, good.
So-
All right, so then let me just share that my goal for today is to approve the RFP so that we can move forward. Because if we approve it today, then we are on our timeline. So I've received comments from Nick that we will discuss today. Bill and Phil both thought that it was good. And then I received comments from Carleen yesterday. So I've had a chance to look at those. I did share them with Dan and Rose, of course. So those need to be discussed. And we also need to review what Dan included. He had some questions. He said that he incorporated the town's standard contract language with edits. The scope of the work was developed to allow the Warner's Pond Management Committee to be a part of the process via meetings and discussion, which is really important. The scope of the work was intended to be aligned with the adaptive management approach, and it's intended to be specific for clarity, efficiency, and cost control. Then he had some issues that he wanted discussed today. One of them was the modified proposer review criteria, which Nick, you had some comments about that. You applied a basis for billing. So that is, I'm assuming, the price proposal sheet on page 18, Dan.
That's correct.
And then you somewhat modified the terms and conditions and the implementation schedule that we need the contract in place by September, October. And because then that makes it necessary for us to implement treatment next season. So I kind of went through and I put some dates in based on what you had put down in your in the plan. And currently we have $194,000. So based on that, do you want to start with Nick's comments first, then the modified proposer review?
Yeah, I'd actually prefer to start with Carleen's.
Okay.
Because it's a very specific question. And Rose, I emailed you earlier today, but you maybe, it sounds like you probably didn't get a chance to look at it. But The question is specifically, do we need to have an updated wildlife and habitat evaluation? And that requirement, whether or not we include that in the scope is from my perspective, primarily a function of what's regulatorily required. I personally don't think it is, but this is really the town's NRC call. It's under the Wetlands Protection Act and how the town NRC rates their
Performing
audit.
surveys, though?
Can I? I'd
Go
love
ahead,
to.
Carleen.
Dan, what point are you speaking of so I know what to address?
Well, the issue is you brought up two comments, I think, that were related to habitat.
Yep, I
And-
added a few like under tasks and also under our emphases at the
Right.
top. Yeah.
So
So
my-
I just-
I'll open it. Give
Yeah.
me 1 second.
Yeah, so my point is this, because those were general comments, but in the previous work, we had two wildlife and habitat evaluations performed. So those were in 1999 and a few years later. I don't believe it was required to update those with subsequent proposals. I'm sorry, my voice is hoarse, so
It's
I
okay.
apologize. I don't think it was required to update that for even, major alteration like the dredge program. So I suspect it's not going to be required here. But
Dan,
where
are
you
you
introduced-
talking, are you talking about the point under task 3, development of mitigation treatment goals?
no, well,
I had written
this
the
comment right here under 3, and
Under the purposes of the pond management
it
consultant.
comes up later, I think.
Yeah, it's basically, you've said the same thing in 3 different places, pretty much.
But my point is, you introduced a general comment, which is fine. But
Yeah, I think it's important that we establish that this is a priority for our group. And it wasn't explicitly stated. And if this is a group that is pulling together a plan for management, I think it has to be stated and clear that this is important to
well,
us.
I just want to, maybe I'm not getting through here. If we say this is important, the pond management consultant is going to come back and say, do you want me to perform a habitat and wildlife evaluation? That is a state described study. There are several forms, so there are different levels. And my question is, should that be included in the scope? It will add significantly to the cost. And the decision, from my perspective, as to whether it would be in the scope or not, is really up to Rose and the NRC.
Well,
because it's regulatorily driven.
Well, I put it under, and we can talk about it, but you had like the WPMC will provide, you had 3 examples of that. So then I put the WMPC will provide the pond management consultant with a site overview of the wildlife, including beneficial insects and aquatic life that will need to be considered and protected. I put it in the category of we're giving to them these emphases, not that we're asking for a full review of all pond wildlife. It's in the category of what we're providing them.
I don't really know what we're going to provide them. I mean,
Well, it's all in here. It's written in.
What I'm saying is that there were 2 wildlife evaluations performed previously.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's only 1 endangered species on the site that's regulated.
I don't think there's.
Rose, just you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but that's my recollection. So the question is, what would we provide them? I'd provide them the previous studies and say, here's the 2 wildlife evaluations that were done.
Maybe Rose can help by answering the question that if we develop the RFP, if we were to approve it as is without any changes, I'm not suggesting we do that right now, but does it go through any further review by the NRC for them to come back and say, we potentially need a wildlife study as part of this and that we have to go back to square one?
I don't think. Go ahead.
I'll just say, once you all have, are happy with the RFP, Department of Natural Resources, so myself and probably Delia and and the finance department. We're like, so basically the town is going to have to look at this, and we're likely going to have comments as well. So just keep that in mind. And I mean, I've started looking at this, and we're definitely going to have some questions. I'm struggling a little with it being like a requirement to do surveys. I don't know that I understand
Well, under the,
why that would be up to us. I think it's part of what you guys think should be in the scope of work. Because I
Right.
know, I mean, think about what's in the charge too.
Rose,
think-
can I say something?
Mhm.
So
Well,
under the Wetlands Protection Act, it's my understanding if there are alterations, and in this case, alterations would be considered some of the mitigation measures we're doing over specific thresholds, that triggers a requirement for an evaluation. And there are two
Okay.
different levels of evaluation. But I think there's a lot of discretion there because that act is enforced by the town at the town level.
So that's like, yeah, priority habitat and stuff, I think is what you're talking about. But that's not going to be triggered until you're at the point where, I mean, you don't know what measures you're going to choose or the consultant is going to discuss with you and put forward. So I don't know that you can say at this point whether you're going to need it or not. It depends what's proposed. But I don't think that's what Carlene is trying to say here. I don't think. I think there's some disconnection, but
So
Well-
given that there's going to be a review by the NRC after we approve something, my thought, want to let it go as we want to approve it today, and then let the town's going to be coming back to us with several questions anyway. Let them bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, it is somewhat time sensitive because if it were to be required and we waited, 6 months to find out, it may postpone all the treatment by another year if
Yeah,
it's required. So that's why I'm just saying we probably should be looking at it from a regulatory perspective first and including it as at least an optional scope task that we could get a price for now, so we could make a decision, pretty quickly in the process. And then we would have that built into the contract.
So I have a question, Carlene, what other towns are doing this? Do you know? Have you done any?
no, I don't know, but I think in a 22-page document that doesn't acknowledge our commitment to preserving and protecting wildlife, aquatic life, and beneficial bug life is inconsistent with our with what we do in Concord and what makes us special and environmentalists. And, as all of us constantly say, this is an incredible site for all of these different things. And I think we should note it that this is a priority for us in some of the language over 22 pages. And Dan, I'm not asking for surveys by the consultant. That is not what this is asking for. It's trying to acknowledge our commitment and our command and demand that our pond management group is also committed to this, to be consistent with Concord values.
One of the things that I fear about this is that we start requesting the pond manager consultant to do all these things, and it might not be within their scope of expertise. Perhaps it's something that we or the NRC are better at. And therefore, we're narrowing the list of applicants who are going to even look at this and apply and work with us.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I still think we're talking about two different things here. So I'm being a little bit obstinate here because I want to drill it down to the proposal. So yes, our charge requires that the ecological health is one of the primary motivations of our work, and that's going to be fundamental to review of any of the treatment alternatives. And for example, that would play out in looking at what post-treatment vegetation would be from a habitat perspective, right?
Mhm.
But what I'm also saying is, and this was triggered. Now, I'm not saying you were asking for it, but your comments triggered it. So I went and looked into it. Is that some or all of the measures we're going to do may be considered from a regulatory perspective um, to require to be an alteration that's going to require a survey. And the survey would say, this is what's there now, and this is what the impact has been from the proposed treatment to those, say, specific species. So I'm really just you put a comment out. I agree with the comment. I don't necessarily agree that we're going to provide them that level of detail of specific insects and stuff, but I think certainly the intent of ecological health is fundamental to this. But then that also got me thinking about the scope of work and whether a survey will be required at some point. And that's why I'm bringing it up now and brought it up in email with Rose.
Dan, let me
Yeah.
jump in for a minute. I can, in this case, I agree with you. I think, having been on the NRC as Nick has been, if we're going to do not that we're going to do herbicides, if we did herbicides, there'd be a necessary wildlife inventory. There's no question about that. If we're going to do a drawdown, there'll be a necessary wildlife inventory about that. I can't think of anything we would do to the pond that won't require it at some point. But I think cluttering up the document is not a good idea. This is something that we need to be alert to, and that the consultant will certainly be alert to, because nothing can happen until it happens. So I just don't want to get caught up in a lot of changes in what is a pretty precise and clear document for me right now.
All right. Well, maybe Rose, you could specifically look at it during your review, the NRC review.
Okay.
So
Can you
that
see-
specific question can be asked, because like I said, these are seasonally dependent surveys. So you don't want to find out late in the game that you need one.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait till the seasonal opportunity rises to do them.
The question
Can you
is,
see my
Nick,
screen right now?
are we putting it in there now? That's the question.
I don't think 2 sentences is cluttering up a 22-page document. I
You're
think
adding
it's
another bullet point.
It would just be an optional
yes,
tab.
right. I think we should add another bullet point. I think we should affirm our commitment to this for the benefit of the people who live or who are abut the pond, but also all the wildlife and other creatures that live there.
Can
It's
it be
just
Can
an
you
presented as
see
an
my
option?
screen right now?
I can't see your screen, Rose.
Can
Let me
anyone?
see. Oh yeah, I can now.
Mhm.
Is it the charge? That's what I was trying to share. I was just pointing out in the charge under duties and responsibilities, building on any previously collected data, undertake clear and specific data collection for the following: water quality, biodiversity, e.g. inventories for fish, birds, and
Yes.
vertebrates, plant communities, percent
Yes.
cover, and annual duration of aquatic invasive species, and sediment accumulation. So I
Yes.
think water quality and sediment accumulation are definitely being captured, but biodiversity is listed under there. So that's something
Agreed.
to consider.
That's in our charge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our charge. No question about it. Question is, do you put it into the document for an RFP?
I vote yes.
Okay, so I'm not gonna die on this hill, but I just want to point out on page 4, it is in there already
Let me
as
bring it up.
the overarching goals for Warner's Pond management.
The
Page
ecological health.
4.
Yeah.
Then it seems to me like we're covered.
Oh,
Yeah, even to Bill's question of Dan earlier, does a 22-page document scare away, so we're just left with one bidder? It's reassuring that 60% of this did come from the town's language, but still, I think the more specific we are about stuff, even if it's termed an option, then we're limiting our options somewhere along the line, including how much money we have to spend on other stuff beside doing a survey, if in fact it's not necessary.
No one's asking for a survey.
so the background and scope are what you guys should focus on as what you were, for the most part, tasked with, and where that's where a lot of Dan's language is. So as far the boilerplate is a lot of everything else where it's kind of more standardized procedures and stuff. So, and I think you were focused in the right areas though. So, but I mean, just from my position, I do think it is good to be, asking for, what's the minimum proposer criteria versus comparative, where, it can be in a range. Maybe they really excel in one section and not as much in the other, but for minimum, do you want to keep it at, minimum of 10 years experience and certified lake manager? So, I mean, it's definitely good to consider these things as a group.
Chris, why don't we have a vote on the first of those things that I guess was it Carlene's adding a task on page
On
5?
Yep.
Because then we can move on. There's still another one coming up
Yeah. Which page? That was,
on page 5, wasn't it?
I think it was the one on page 5. I think it was on page
There it is.
6.
All right, 6. Yeah.
Right. That's the first one we approached, was on page 6, even though there are a couple comments on page 5.
You mean that, well, on mine, it's page 5, seek out with the assistance of the WMPC.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking at, Chris? Wildlife and aquatic experts and professionals?
That's it right there. Right there.
Yes. Yeah.
So that comment as written is telling the consultant that it's effectively a task cost item.
Okay, let's wordsmith it.
Why bother? We already have it in there.
I also think that it adds additional cost and time and I'm wondering what the additional value is to adding that in for the additional cost and time.
It's just emphasis added to make sure that people understand, to make sure potential consultants understand that we're very serious about.
Carlene, what I see you doing, this is okay. I think I see you holding our feet to the fire rather than the.
No, I'm not.
I would like that. And even your next point, I'm looking down further. Those are things that we talked about, but I don't think you need to bring the pond manager into that right now. I think keep it simple. And then we know we have to face these issues later on.
And I just want to note that everything's going to be done accordance with the state pond management guidance, which is based on maintaining the ecology of the pond. So,
yeah.
Can we vote on this?
I'd like to move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Nick, do you have any thoughts? I understand someone's calling for a vote, but.
I'm calling for the vote. Yeah.
Bill was called. I wasn't calling.
Phil called for the vote.
Oh, Phil. Okay. Phil called for the vote. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be done anyway, and that anyone looking at the proposals will understand that that's going to be part of the process down the road. So I don't think in this case it's necessary to add it in. That first red one, to me, it sounds like we're asking them to do something. I don't know. It just seemed. Let me look at it again. Yeah, I would say I wouldn't include it. Just because I think it would be understood it has to happen at some point just because of the process.
Okay. So should we take a vote on that? Then Phil called the vote on this first seek out assistance. All those in favor of keeping it out?
Keeping it out.
Keeping it out, raise your hand.
Oh.
Okay, so the vote is 4 and all those, so 4-1, Carlene. So that will come out.
Wait, was that everyone?
That was Bill,
Yeah.
Phil, Nick, and myself. 1, 2,
Dan?
3, 4,
What about
5.
Dan?
And she's 6.
And
So it's
Dan,
5
and
to
Dan.
1.
I voted to take it out because if it's going to get left in, we have to transform it to a task.
5 to 1. Okay.
Next.
Next is You had potentially work with another separate consulting firm at the end of the 5-year discovery and delivery period that would be hired to objectively assess the efficacy,
Yeah.
thank you, of the mitigation efforts per the Warner's Pond Management Committee charge. Now, this is why we voted to go with a pond manager, because the pond manager is separate from the actual company that will be doing the work. So that is our check and balance. So basically, we've done that. So I don't understand why you want to put that in here, because it's at number one, you're saying it's at the end of the 5-year time frame, but we don't need it because we're hiring a pond manager who's separate from the company that's going to actually do the work. So I don't
Okay,
understand.
as long as, I'm not on mute, am I? I can't see it on my
No.
phone.
No, we can hear you.
Okay,
can hear
thank you.
you.
As long as there's a check and balance and that the people assessing whether anything has worked is not the same people who have done the work, then I'm fine with taking that out. I just think there has to be an objective review. You can't review yourself.
Right, which is
Oh,
why we decided to vote and write an RFP for a pond manager. And then
Yeah, I
hire
think
a
that's been
doer,
clear since the
so to
beginning.
speak. Okay. The next one that Carleen has is under task 3, development of mitigation/treatment goals, alternatives, design performance metrics, implementation schedule, and estimated costs.
Where's that? I don't see that.
That is on
That's the
page
task
6.
heading. That's a task heading.
I read the heading. So what Carleen wants added in is that the Warner's Pond Management Committee will provide the pond management consultant with a site overview of the wildlife, including beneficial insects and aquatic life that will need to be considered and protected in any mitigation plans.
Isn't that part of the survey that we already talked about, the
Yeah,
wildlife?
it is.
Yeah,
It's
the
just-
first- the
just
first
different
question.
place.
Same thing.
Yeah,
Again, I think it needs to be emphasized and stated as a condition because we need to emphasize that this is a priority for us. Or I think we should emphasize that this is a priority for us. Ecological health of the pond, to me, doesn't say it enough over the scope of this description that this is a priority for us and we mean business.
So is this some other project we now need to fund to do this survey? Because it says we're going to provide this to the consultant. How's
Yeah.
that going to happen?
Because
think
it's
we've
in the
already voted on
Nick,
this.
it's in the context of, if you look above, I'm looking at you all and not Chris's screen, but if you look above, it's in the context of what we will provide.
Yeah,
I
but
think this
I
is-
think if I take that sentence, Carleen, and I break it into 2 parts, the first part is we'll provide a site overview. Yes, so we've had 2 surveys done and we can readily make those available. The second part does not exist. So we would actually have to figure out. I mean, I personally could not prepare that myself based on the available data. So
What
I think
doesn't
that
exist, Dan? Tell me what doesn't exist.
what aquatic life the wildlife and aquatic life that will need to be considered and protected.
Well, if that
That-
doesn't
that-
exist, it should.
Look,
No, that's not true, Carleen. That is part of the process. It's part of the regulatory process. I can't say specificity because you have to protect other than the endangered species.
But there
Yeah,
are,
it's not like we're going to come up with a list and say these have to be, you have to demonstrate how you're going to protect these with these alternatives.
to me,
Just for
again, this is
clarity, there are no
holding
endangered
our feet to the fire.
issues.
We know we have to look at and we're committed to preserving and enhancing the wildlife. I don't think this has to be put in here for the purposes of the management person we're hiring. I think we're going to give them
concern is
everything we
it's asking
have, and
us
if they
to-
want more, we'll give it to them.
My concern is it's asking us to perform a task we're unqualified to perform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Either that or we have to create a new project that we have to put out for someone
Yeah.
to create this survey.
We could
I mean-
wordsmith it. We could wordsmith it to
I
make
don't
sure
think you
that
can wordsmith
this
that problem.
this review is done by the pond management committee to make sure
Well,
that
that's
this
already-
is.
That's
I
already
agree
going to
with-
happen.
I agree with Nick and Bill's point that I think, and from my own point of view, this is too much like the first comment you made, Carleen, that was voted down. But I don't think we need to go there.
No.
Phil, I'm surprised, aren't you? I mean, as an abutter, aren't you concerned about the preservation and protection of all of the various wildlife
But-
aspects of this
but- But
pond?
Carleen, you're mixing two things. One is that your overall concern and having a goal for the ecological health. And I would suggest as sort of a compromise here. Early on in the proposal, we will re-emphasize that to a much greater extent than just saying the ecological health.
So
But that
they'll
is
be-
very different than coming up with a list of specific species that need to be protected.
Dan, I agree. It said one thing. You don't need to rewrite. It's already in the proposal. And honestly, really, Carleen, you know, all of us are committed. You can't say that to Phil or any of us. We're all committed to wanting to have an enhanced wildlife in the pond and have them preserved. So we all know that.
Yeah, but I think in response to Carleen, there is a benefit to driving that point home with the consultant. But I don't think we're going to tell them specifically what to do. We're just going to say that is going to be a very important part of our evaluation of treatment alternatives.
Do it in the interview.
All right. It's an easy change. If you go up to those bullets in the beginning, it's an easy add-on. Like it's 2 to 3 sentences we could add on.
You know
to
what
that
it's
one
like getting a
bullet.
committee to write 2 or 3 sentences, Dan?
All right.
Go with
Well,
what you have, Dan. You got a great document. You got a great document. It won't be perfect, but it's great. So I propose my vote. I propose we have a vote on this piece here, Chris.
Okay. All right, so let's vote on that. Who wants this not included in the RFP? Okay, so that's once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1. So that's not in. Okay. And I believe there was one more comment. And it's under the minimum proposer criteria. There it is. It says a narrative that spells out the proposer's experience in working in wildlife-rich areas and a demonstrated history of mitigation that is sensitive to preserving and sustaining wildlife, land, aquatic, and insect populations.
Sorry, everyone, my car is so hot that it shut my phone down.
Are you there now?
I think we lost it.
What did I miss?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
We're just at your minimum proposer criteria. It says a narrative that spells out the proposer's experience in working in wildlife-rich areas and a demonstrated history of mitigation that is sensitive to preserving and sustaining wildlife, land, aquatic, and insect populations. So your comments.
I'm simply asking that this be included in their proposal. I mean, I can't imagine this is a deterrent to people applying to us. I can't imagine this is a problem for people.
I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
from
take
my
it back
per-
to Bill's point that he just made about let that come out in an interview because whoever's bidding on this is going to know it's Concord and they're going to know we're sensitive to it. And if
What
we're
is the
involved-
problem with stating it?
Yeah,
to
I mean, I think
emphasize-
you're
I-
beating this to death. I think.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
I'm
you are.
showing-
Value judgments
a
like
tough
that
crowd.
aren't helpful
This is
in
a tough crowd.
conversation.
I mean, from my perspective, I'm fine leaving it in. I would just request one change. And I would remove what's in the parentheses and I would just say sustaining wildlife and pond wildlife and habitat.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I'd agree. I agree.
Thank you, Nick.
And I will say, I think there might be a benefit to seeing something in writing before an interview. So I think I'm personally okay with it.
Any other comments?
No, I guess not. I don't think it's necessary, but I don't have strong opinions about it. I wouldn't put down land, aquatic, and insect populations. I wouldn't have that in there.
Yeah, no, I agree with Dan on
Sure,
that.
strike the parenthetical.
Yeah, just to stick with state terminology, it's sustaining pond wildlife and habitat.
Great.
And habitat. Okay, let's vote on that. Do we vote to keep that in with those amended changes? Raise your hand if you agree with that. Okay, there you go. You got one. Okay. Other discussions. Nick, you had some issues?
Yes, so the first was there were two section 8s, so I assume you fixed that by now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the first section 8, so this has to do with this whole weighting system for evaluating proposals. In my experience, those are not helpful to the evaluators. And the reason is that they always come down to very subjective discussions when you go to do it. You can't actually count up and give points for every little thing. And it's going to come down to subjective interpretation of who you trust and who really understands the problem. So unless the state or somebody mandates that we use this weighted system, I really object to it. The second thing is, for instance, why is proposal quality weighted low? Why is proposal quality weighted lower than proposer qualifications and experience? Would we seriously give more points to someone who has done good work in the past, but whose proposal is average? That's one point. If we consider adaptive management process key to our whole effort, why does it have a weight of 10%? Okay, so I would like to not have these prescribed percentage weightings in advance. That's the first thing. And if you do that first thing, then I think the other comments don't apply.
So
So
Nick,
I would
can
just like to see the weighted taken out.
So Nick, just to give you a little background why that's there. So I did not invent that. I did not put that in there. That was a town, that is a process that has existed within the town proposals. So what I did was, and Rose provided that to me. So what I did was take an example of what the town has done on another proposal that Rose provided, and I modified it to support the specifics of this proposal. I can't say exactly why the town puts that in there in general, but I think
you should find out why, because I can understand this if we're talking about buying trucks, where we've got, physical characteristics that we're talking about that we can actually measure. But when we're talking about evaluating consultants and trying to guess who's going to do a better job, because we're guessing, right? We're going to wind up making subjective evaluation. I really think.
But I can tell you, Nick, that the part of the reason, and I've done, in my professional life, responded to many of these, is that because of the nature of the proposal we're putting out, which is not a price-based proposal, it's got a two-step process, a quals-based and a price-based. The town can't be arbitrary in their selection based on qualifications. They have to have a structured process. Otherwise, people are going to constantly come back and say, well, and sue the town and say, why didn't you pick me? I came in with the lowest price. So this is a mechanism for the town to go through to do that in a qualifications-based proposal.
May I ask a question about this?
We could achieve the same thing by waiting until we see the proposals and then providing a qualitative, quantitative description of why we're choosing them. Because
it informs the consultant who's proposing the work how to prepare his proposal.
Okay, then let's talk about the weights. So somebody who's done great work 20 years ago is going to get better weighting than somebody who's good now. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't know if somebody wants to put that up on the screen, so we can just go through.
Can I just raise a question?
Dean has a comment as a select
This is
board.
another document I would like to have forwarded to me, because I haven't seen this, so. it
Yeah,
would be
sorry, Dan, we've kind of left you out of the loop, haven't we?
Yeah. Thanks.
Here's
Long
a question I have for you
conversation.
before you put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
we removed it from this, and I agree with Nick. And if NRC wants to put it back in because it's required by the town, that would be up to NRC. But we could say to them, we don't think this is really helpful. And in fact, it kind of limits us, and see what they have to say. And then they still may decide to use the criteria. But I don't know.
I think you're creating a lot of unnecessary work, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, there's one more way besides the weighting that you could do if you wanted. I'm trying to find the other example. There are multiple examples, so let me see if I can find one and see if that's any better. But I need just a second.
And maybe somebody could put it up on the screen.
That would be
Well, see,
helpful.
my concern, I've been through these as an evaluator in the past, and what you wind up doing is you wind up trying to figure out how to game it backwards so that it comes out with the answer you want based on the weightings that have been done. That's not the right way to do it.
Nick, in a quals-based proposal, we can, as a committee, select a consultant without a basis for that selection.
That's right. We should articulate why we're choosing them. I'm saying we have to do that work to explain why one is better than the other. Right? And it's on them to put out a proposal that's going to pass that's going to pass muster. I think the other side of this is if you put this numeric thing out there, I think you're giving them grounds for suing the town, right? They can dispute
Well,
that.
I mean, I guess you got to go back to Rose and the town, and they just got to tell us what they need for a quals-based proposal.
That's why it's my first question. Is this mandated? If it's mandated, we have to do it. If it's not,
I assumed it was mandated because Rose provided it to me as a basis for preparing the RFP.
But Rose may have another idea here.
Rose is feeling the weight of that.
Rose, well, I don't see why.
Well, it's also it's not uncommon. I mean, over the course of my career, I've responded to, tens, if not hundreds of proposals that have very similar processes for municipalities. For private clients, you don't have them, but for municipalities, it's very, very common. And state agencies.
Okay, so okay, I'll open this other example. And this is this has to do with an open space and recreation plan, so ignore the actual content, but just you still need you need to do this section, but this might be a little bit less complicated.
Are you sharing? I don't know if you're sharing and I'm not seeing it, but
I just started screen sharing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
If you could make it a little bigger, Rose.
okay. Let me just make sure I'm on the mic.
You just passed it, Rose, too, I think.
Yeah, hang on.
Thank you.
So these are requirements, but as far as evaluation criteria, so this one is there's minimum requirements that are just a pass fail, which these are pretty
right. No problem.
Yeah, I agree.
More administrative things. And then it looks like they do comparative, they do it by points, and these are their values. It's very similar. They're weighting them.
Scroll down though.
by
Are
points.
these described?
And so it's still highly advantageous.
it's very similar to the other one.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
So I think it just is.
Yeah.
It's just
And
summarized
I
differently.
we can look at that when we review. But so I guess for now, I would assume you do need it. But you are still welcome to discuss
Well, if we need it,
how you want to.
well, then my
Way-
objection is to the weightings as I articulated, which is I don't get
Right.
why adaptive management is 10% when it seems to be the core of the whole process.
Good point.
And I don't get why someone's historic performance in the past is weighted as much or more than quality, whichever it is. Hold on.
Okay, so we have proposal quality is 20%. Can we bring that up, Rose, so we can see them? It's on page 10. Starts on page 10, actually. Comparative criteria. Okay. It's number 8.
It's number 8. Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Okay, so we have proposal quality is at 20%. Okay, let's just go through them. Proposer qualifications and experience is 30%, right? And then we have proposer qualifications and experience, municipally owned ponds or lakes, 10%.
Why does it
And
matter who owns them? Yeah, okay.
quality of client reference checks, 10%. And then experience with adaptive management plans, 10%. And then consistency with town's goals and objectives, including characteristics desired by the town for a long-term pond management consultant, is 40%.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It is, and how do we
Way too
even,
much.
how do we learn, what that result is? Do we?
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can play back and look good on that. They can say, oh yeah, I believe in all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right,
How are they going to demonstrate it?
right.
What if we take 20 off that and put it on to experience with adaptive management
I put
plans,
it
Dan?
at,
I mean,
I put it even at 10%. I mean, I just don't, anyone
all
can
right.
make that number look good.
Here's another idea. Why don't you, there's 5 criteria. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why not give them each 20%?
6.
6? Oh. 2.
It would help if these were summarized in a table the way that other,
Yeah.
so that you could see them all in one little table.
Right.
I can see on the first point, I can see reducing that from 20 to 10, and that frees up 10 right there. And the 40 could be something less than that, so we can certainly reallocate some of these.
So do we think we'd like them a little bit more evenly weighed?
Yeah. I think
Well,
so.
I mean, there's certain things like adaptive pond management and proposal quality that seem to me are a little higher than some of the others.
Yeah.
So if we left proposal quality at 20% and go from there.
How
Let's-
many, there's 6 of them?
6.
Six-
Yeah.
That would be 17 and 1/3% each.
Yeah, I know. It's too bad.
Why,
Is there
why
anything
don't
to
we,
drop?
why don't we reduce by 30% number 6 and add it to number 5? Would that suit you, Nick?
I have trouble holding them all in my head at one time, so.
Me too. Yeah.
Reduce consistency with town's goals by 30%.
Oh,
It's now at 40, and add it to experience with adaptive management plans.
Rose, can you do a little spreadsheet with these or something that just so we can see them all in one place? The
Okay,
name of it and the percentages, then we can.
okay. So while she's doing that, we just said that we wanted them somewhat equal, okay?
Yeah.
So the first one is proposal quality, right?
That should be
Proposer-
high.
Proposal quality.
Reduced to 10.
We said that's at 20%. Why don't we leave it there for the moment? Okay. And then proposer qualifications and experience, we
I'd say
had it-
less than 20.
30%. So why don't we make it 15?
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Then go ahead for starters, just to get it in
Just,
the.
so I'm just
Okay.
throwing it out to kind of get some things. Then we look at number 3, which is proposer qualifications and experience of municipally owned ponds or lakes.
I
That's
don't even see why that matters.
why don't we collapse those into the same one and keep that at either, at maybe 25?
Yeah, I don't see what the distinction as to who owns the pond matters at all.
I agree.
Oh, they're municipally owned versus privately owned, you mean?
What's the
Yeah.
difference?
But let's
It's a
collapse- let's-
pond. It's a
could we-
pond. It's the same issues. I should see, somebody has a great proposal, but they've never done one for a town, but they've done, a lot of others that are really good. We can't look
Yeah,
at.
that's an interesting point.
Can we collapse it and
Now you got it down to 5.
Now you have 20% each.
Start
Except
there.
I don't like that first one having 20% for the proposal quality. I think Nikki
Okay.
made a good point that doesn't need to
Yep.
be 20.
Just because they can write well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't make it a better
right.
plan.
so let's add that 10% to experience with adaptive management plans. I mean, obviously that is critical, as Nick pointed out.
Let's see.
So if it's 20% for all of them, make that one, the other one 10% and that one 30%.
Well, I would think proposal quality should be the highest. So I would say that's the one that should be something like 30% or
Proposal quality?
25%.
The
You
first,
think
Really?
that's-
That's pretty general.
I
Is
think-
proposal quality just, what does it just mean? That they did good PowerPoint or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right.
put
I
it, they
think
put
so.
it together.
Just be, like I said, just because they're a good writer doesn't mean they have good content.
So it's not the quality of the actual proposal, it's just the quality of the presentation.
Um,
Should be both, but
Well,
There's nothing in here
No,
now that speaks to their
there needs to be
proposed
one
approach.
point that speaks to the quality of the content.
so that would be the adaptive management plan.
yeah,
Now, I disagree with that. And the reason I weighted adaptive management on the lower end is because not very many of these responders are going to have adaptive management experience. We assume they're all going to be certified pond managers and have a lot of pond management experience, but adaptive management is a small subset. So I'm a little personally less concerned about that because I think we'll
Well,
work
wait a
that out
minute,
with them.
that means we're gonna wind up choosing somebody with no adaptive management experience?
What we're looking for are companies that have experience with pond management consistent with the Massachusetts state guidance. A subset of that, an approach to that, is adaptive pond management. So I think it's important. We've identified it. We've told them they have to include it. But I don't want to preclude really good pond management consultants because they don't have a lot of demonstrated experience using specifically adaptive pond management.
But Dan,
Well,
you're not precluding them. You're just saying it's an important issue for us to see. So if you raised it by say 10%, that doesn't wipe anybody out in this.
It doesn't necessarily wipe out, but Bill, I can tell you, disgruntled consultants that did not get selected will ask for the score, and they'll ask for a breakdown to the score. And if they don't think it was fairly done, they will contest it.
Nick's point, yeah.
Do we need the percentages?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, you do. If it's a weighted system, you need the percentages.
Then we can't weigh them all the same then.
Right.
Unless you come up with, I mean, you could, you just,
Why are there still 6? I thought we eliminated.
yeah, we collapsed two into,
Number 3 is out.
Let me push this a little bit further. Why do you need to have percentages? Wouldn't it give us more flexibility if we had 5 of them? And we don't have to put down any percent. Just have 5 criteria, and then depending on who you get in front of you will depend on which gets weighted heavier.
Let me argue against myself. You need to know as a proposer going in, which are the most important things that you have to pitch. Okay. So if we have to do something like this, we have to give them something useful so that they can put together something that is responsive. Okay.
Mhm.
And what we're telling them is what's most important. So
or just to take the devil's advocate position, what if we didn't assign percentages, let it get to the NRC? They tell us if it's going to be mandated or not to have percentages. If it doesn't, that gives us more flexibility in judging the competing bids.
Well, I think from what Rose has told us, we have to have some sort of weighting system. We have to have some quantifiable system, and I
Did
think
she say that, Rose?
yeah, I think it's required by law for public
Yeah.
proposals, including Concord in Massachusetts.
okay. So I think I argued for, and I thought we agreed to eliminate number 3 about municipally owned ponds and lakes.
I think
Yes.
we did agree.
Okay. Okay. So now
I do not agree with that, but
you didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not coming from a place of pride of ownership here, but I'm not sure why we're not just reviewing what's in the proposal and why we're sitting here reinventing it.
Well, that's an interesting point.
because that's what we're supposed to do,
The reason we jumped in to do this is because I objected strongly to
Right.
the weights.
which.
Except for the weights are, I can't speak what's literally required by law, but in general, that type of process is required. The town gave us a template.
Right.
And we
right.
followed the template.
I'm no longer objecting to weights. I'm objecting to what the weights are for each characteristic.
But I mean, why don't we just go back to the original and just discuss the weights and not change?
For
the
one,
items.
I can't have a discussion about that, the way my brain works, without seeing them all in one place summarized like this.
Oh,
So-
Is this what was in the proposal?
Yes, yeah.
yes. These are the 6 points.
Okay,
This isn't what was in, was it?
There's nothing left out then.
No,
No,
Okay,
but we did talk about, it says proposer qualifications and experience general. My question is, and whoever brought this up, why do we need a separate one? Why couldn't we roll
I
3,
agree.
2? I think we talked about that.
I agree.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
care.
that's true. That's true, isn't it? Yeah, I agree too.
I think we did kind of agree, but I'm not sure we heard from Dan on that point earlier.
But so Dan, say what your point is again about why we need.
yeah, I'm trying. I got like a corrupt thing, so I had to reboot my computer. So I'm catching up here a little bit. I'm
Okay.
trying to go back to the original document so I can see what I wrote
Right.
there.
So on 2, it says, how well the proposer's qualifications and experience match the Warner's Pond issues and conditions included demonstrated experience at similar Massachusetts ponds. And so
That's
then
that's under
3
2.
is talking about the extent of experience working for municipalities.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me tell you, 3, do we care if this pond management consultant has worked for a municipality before?
I don't. Why should I?
Because
I think we
working for a
do.
municipality comes with a whole
Yeah. I think we
series
do.
of implications and requirements and expectations that don't exist for private pond owners.
Such
Okay.
as, such as what?
We're just dealing with the bureaucracy.
Dealing with the public. I understand that. I understand that. And we have it at, is that what we have at,
10%.
what percentage is that? I'm sorry. It's,
10%.
10%?
Yeah, 10%.
I think
So
it's okay to leave that to per Dan's point.
Okay.
Or could we slightly rephrase it and say, essentially, we're looking for experience with ponds in Massachusetts, including municipally owned ponds.
Well, it sounds like the real issue is who we are, that we're dealing with municipalities. If they have contracts doing
Yeah.
ponds for municipalities.
I
that's
mean,
what we're asking.
the way I was looking at it was if you get number 2 has specific requirements.
Right.
And let's say we have 2 consultants that are completely equal
Right.
in number 2. And then one of those 2 has municipal experience and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
We're probably going to go with the one with the municipal experience, but we're not going to go with somebody who just has municipal experience, but doesn't score high in number 2.
I agree. I agree with that.
Well, okay, so this takes me to I'll accept that for me personally, but now I'm back at my concern about why is proposal quality just means they gave us a good PowerPoint and gee, it looks pretty. Is
That's
that
how
what-
we're looking at it, Nick.
No, but that's proposal quality where they're responsive to the RFP.
Yeah, which is important.
Okay.
You
then-
could have
I don't think
a
it
non-slick
I don't
Word
think it-
document that was very responsive. I'd score that high.
Why don't we word it that way then?
Well, I think the way I think I had it that way.
It
is
says
proposal
that-
the
quality is-
proposal will be evaluated relative to their responsiveness to the RFP.
Yeah.
Isn't that what I said?
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It's true, you do.
Just read
Okay.
what you said.
Okay,
He does. Yeah, it's in there.
I would suggest a different term than proposal quality, but responsiveness to RFP would be a better
I
title.
would be fine with that. You can change
Okay.
it responsiveness to RFP. That's fine.
Okay,
And just leave it as is.
Yep.
I think proposal quality was the way the town had it and I didn't change it, but I like that change.
okay, good. Okay, so now we're down to 30.
Percentages?
So you're over 100, by the
So,
way. You
no,
need to
number
get it to
2.
100.
What'd you say,
Number
Rose?
2, proposer qualifications and experience. Just help me understand that because I don't want to wind up working with somebody who did a great project or something like this 20 years ago, but hasn't done one recently. So I'm concerned about,
Well, we require a submittal, not only 10 years experience, but we require project descriptions for, I think I don't have it in front of me. I think it was 5 years, last 5 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
but what I did yesterday doesn't mean I'm going to be doing something good for you tomorrow. I could put my junior people on it and screw it up.
If
And you may have new companies coming along that are very good that we're just, they're pioneering some things that we wouldn't have access to.
Well, that's why these are not binary, they're weighted.
So what about giving
a huge weight.
what about giving equal weighting to 2 and 3? 20% each.
No,
I think 3 or 2 is very important.
I do
Yeah, but
too.
as we've talked about, with the municipality, essentially provides its own set of issues for any company who's going to be wanting the business, and that's a big part in my mind.
Dan, how do we know they're going to put their good people on it? That's what really matters.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you interview people and you make a decision and you go forward. I think we're going to get a short list of responders. My concern is we may get certain types of consultants proposing, which are not exactly what we want, but they're going to respond and we're going to have to process them. But I think it's not going to be a long list. And I think they're going to have references and they're going to have proven Massachusetts experience. And that's what we're going to go with. Usually stuff like putting poor people on projects, that comes up in references.
Right.
So
I think this is a fair distribution.
We're over
we're over
100%.
by 10
by
Oh,
or 20, we're over by 20.
Okay, so what about if we drop proposer qualifications and experience down to 25%? The municipally owned ponds make it 5%? That just took out 10.
Do you want me to do that, or
I'm still looking.
you guys
Hold
still
on.
deciding? Okay.
I would rather see municipally owned experience at 10.
So then where are we gonna take 20 out? We need 20 out.
Well, I originally they'd added up to
We'll
100.
take it
So
out
how
of
did I have
numbers.
it originally?
Yeah, but we
I would
play
take it out of,
around.
I would take it out of number 6, because I think number 6 is something they can make up. Yeah, how are you going to prove that they're consistent with the town's goals? Anyone can say that, but what are they going to show you?
Right.
That's going to prove anything?
Yeah, we kind of discussed that one.
okay. So
I
you're saying
think-
take 20 out of that, or take,
I would take 30 out of it, frankly.
No, I think
No.
that's too much, Nick.
No, I think the thinking behind that was that this is somewhat, I don't want to say it's unique, but it's a little bit unusual in that we're doing an adaptive management approach. We have the history of the task force and now moving into the subcommittee. I think we really want to make sure we have someone that is comfortable with us. And quite frankly, I left number 6 in there or put number 6 in there because I wanted the committee legally, without compromising any legal obligation, to have some flexibility in just making a choice, right?
yeah, okay, Dan, so where does it come out? I'm sorry, I don't see where the 20,
Well,
why is this adding to 120?
Can I say one more thing before talking about the percentages again? I just looked it up. And it says that Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 149, does not generally require that RFP responses be evaluated using a numerical scoring system. What it requires depends on the specific procurement process.
Okay,
Yeah, so does Concord have a procurement process?
I'm sure they do.
Yes.
okay.
And finance is going to review this too, so I can ask, but
Yeah, I don't want to do something that might be contentious that isn't required.
Right.
I think we need it, but I would take 20 out of number 6. Problem solved.
I don't understand number 6, Dan. Could you say it again? Maybe I just need to read.
All right, so I mean, I come to this with a little bit of different history than you guys because I'm used to being on some winning teams and some losing teams for proposing to towns. But I will tell you, number 6 is the only one that allows you really a subjective selection, and that's why I weighted it so high, because I had to weight it high enough that it would influence the overall score.
Could you see the wording? Listen.
It says the town is looking to enter into a long-term, 5-year working relationship with a pond management consultant who will provide expertise, advice, and professional judgment relative to the treatment and management of this important town resource. The pond management consultant will be expected to work closely with the Warner's Pond Management Committee and the level of expertise, communication, and demonstrated ability to work well with similar agencies and entities as demonstrated by the proposer's submitted qualifications and interview presentation is key to the selection process. It's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
And if it's not scored high, like if you, let's say we put 5% on this will never allow us that sort of subjective selection to influence the outcome.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it does to me now, and I'm not going to say anything more about this since this is a matter of public record.
But folks, I'm looking at the original, why am I on mute? I'm looking on the original proposal and it does add up to 120. So
Oh,
Dan,
my bad.
something has to budge, Dan.
My bad, sorry.
So please make a recommendation because I think we need to, we
Move
need to
on,
move on
Lisa.
from this. We can't have 120%.
I would probably make, all right, I'll give you my shot first and then we could each do this.
Perfect.
I'd probably take proposal quality down to 10
Agree?
and I would take, you guys aren't going to like this, but I would take the adaptive management down to 5. And what do we need? 5 more?
5 more.
I'd probably take municipally owned to 5 because I think it'll, the municipal part would be able to capture with number 6 too.
I would leave the experience with adaptive management plan at 10, which is not very much, and take consistency down by 5. Consistency with town's goals.
Yeah, I would agree. with
I
that.
would leave consistency as high as possible, given Dan's speech.
Well,
Well, and I don't, this is public record, so I don't want to sound like I'm proposing something that is inconsistent with the town procurement process. What I am saying is some of these are very, very explicit, right? We get 3 references and they're all good.
yeah, it just seems
They are what they
weird.
are.
It
But-
seems weird if we're asking for an adaptive management plan to put the weight factor at 5%. It's
I
just
agree.
doesn't make
Doesn't
any
make any
sense.
No,
And 40 is pretty high, even if we had it at 35. That's
I agree
Agree.
with that.
I
Who's
agree.
gonna quibble about 5%? Doesn't it seem so small? So Colleen, what were you saying? 35% for
Take consistency number 6 down to 35% and take
The proposal down to 10, number 1 down to
proposal
10.
down to 10, and then what was the last 5?
number 3. Municipally
I
owned.
guess number 2
Yeah.
to 25, maybe that's fun.
2 to 25. Okay.
So what do we have across the boards? We have 10 for the first one. What's the second one?
25?
25, 10 for the third,
Yep,
10 for the fourth,
yep.
5 for the fifth.
Nope.
No, 10.
Okay, sorry. And then 35 for 6.
Yeah.
Yes. Does that add to 100?
Please say yes.
10.
Yes, yes, it does.
Great.
Hey, Rose, do
Yep.
you have available what you sent me by any chance?
So just
Wait a
FYI,
I think this works.
Me too. Can we vote on this? Because
I think we need to vote on this.
yes, I think so Phil just sent me a text. They just lost their power, so I don't know if I see
Oh,
him up
no.
there anymore. It's the entire neighborhood, so he's
Oh.
suggesting that we continue without him.
Okay, so why don't we vote on this then?
Yes.
Too bad, Phil, but we're gonna vote.
I move to vote. I move to vote with the new totals that Chris just rattled off.
Second,
I
Okay.
agree. Okay, so we'll vote for, do we agree with that? Do I have to read it again?
No,
Nope.
Okay, raise your hand if you vote for that.
Aye.
aye,
Okay, 100%. We're gonna
Good.
assume that, we don't know what to say about Phil. Okay,
I
Is
mean, I
someone,
think the big part of
Oh.
this, are people happy with this, or do people agree with the scope?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yes.
Great.
Rose, the pricing is on the pricing sheet. So that would
Is
just,
someone volunteering to make these edits?
So that was a good, wait a minute.
I
Price.
can do that.
Price isn't a criterion?
no, it's qualifications based and then price.
Okay.
Wait, is this what you wanted?
Yeah,
Pull up
I
or-
just wanted to point out, this is pretty much what the town, you provided as a proposal sheet,
Yeah.
but I did it, into tasks 1 through 6 and 8 are fixed fee. So that was me that inserted that. You should make sure everybody's okay with that in the
Okay.
town. That
Okay.
and
Sorry.
7 on an accrued time and expenses.
So, Dan, how does, or Rose, how does, price fit into our selection of a vendor?
Rose, what's the
Second
answer?
part of it, right? We look at that part, there's two parts to this. The first part is the criteria and stuff. Then once we kind of figure out how we're categorizing them, then we look at the price and say, how does this fit? You know what I mean? So you're not necessarily taking the cheapest one, but
Yeah.
hopefully you don't choose someone that's out of the ballpark either. Is that correct, Rose?
They call it like a 2 envelope approach. So there's going to be the submittal of the proposal and then the submittal of their basically their price. And it might be helpful for you all to revisit a recording of when you had finance come to speak, because we reviewed a lot of that with them. And you can also look on their website and there's some information about that, about RFPs and everything and how the process works. That's about all I'll say about it because I'm not the expert in the actual procurement. That'll be the finance department.
Well, wait a minute. So we get to say which one, how we rate the proposers. And then somebody else is going to make the decision, maybe based on price?
No.
Because I don't think you have to go under this option for procurement. I don't believe you have to go with the lowest price.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to understand that exactly.
If
what
you
will
have
happen.
if you have 2 proposers with the same score, it will probably defer to price.
Okay,
That's
If we
true.
have-
All things being equal, it goes to the lowest bidder. That's just town
Yeah,
government.
and I think that's why in part why we have the weights and all that stuff.
okay. So we're gonna evaluate them and we're gonna recommend them based on our scoring system.
Yeah, and I think
Exactly.
it's
The
very
purchasing-
separate in the town.
This is the
Here's
one
my
we
question.
really like, and here's how the others finished.
I don't think we see the pricing. I think the pricing goes directly to the town. We just see the
That's right.
proposals themselves.
That's right.
I'd be surprised about that, really. Number one. Number two, is it us who does it, or is this going to be NRC?
It's NRC, but
Mhm.
I assume they're going to take into account our recommendation.
Mhm.
Yeah, they will, but they're also going to see the price.
I think this is a very specific process that the town goes through for any kind of procurement. And it's usually done for consulting as opposed to, purchasing like a non-service type of procurement. I think the pricing goes right to the town, and I don't think the pricing comes up until a recommendation has been based on the proposal. And
That is true. That is true. The town, we cannot see, the bidding cannot be public because if it's all things being equal and the lowest bidder gets it, then they could come in with a bid that's $1 fewer, less than anyone else's bid. So the bidding is blind on,
Okay,
for
I
the
understand.
public process.
Yeah, you
I'm-
get sealed
I'm trying to
bids.
understand how the town will make a decision. So we're gonna rank them. Let's say we rank them 1 through 5
Mhm.
responders. And we're gonna say, obviously, we want number 1, and we're gonna recommend that to the NRC, to the
Mhm.
NRC. And they're gonna then look at the price. Somebody's gonna then look at the prices and say, geez, you chose the most expensive one. He said, yeah, but those are the criteria. That's the one we want.
Yeah.
We didn't put this out as a maximum, as a request for proposal to be under some maximum price.
I
Right?
think into that, I mean, I haven't worked with Concord, but I've only worked,
Well, maybe we have to ask the town that.
Yeah.
I'd like to know that whoever we choose is going to be the one selected by the town.
I mean, I think if the town came back and said, wow, they're 100% higher, go
Right.
back and review
They're
them.
not going to hire them.
But if they're like 2% higher, they'll probably just go with the
Right.
quality.
Well, that's just a relative thing. I'd like to know if there's an absolute number we're not supposed to go past, so we can tell the bidders so that they don't bother to bid if we go over that number.
Well, we can put it right in that top line. That's what that line is.
We don't know. We don't know. What we know is how much money we have right now. But if something comes up, we might ask for more money, in this process. I would hate to put a money amount right there right now.
Yeah, I would
Well,
too.
Rose, that on that price sheet, that first sentence was there on the town's price sheet. Is that what that's intended to do?
Sure looks like it. And
Or,
so
I mean,
looking at,
it could go either
Okay.
way. It could be the consultant saying, this is what I think the total cost is. Or it could be the town saying, no, this is the total.
Hold it. This is being filled out by, who puts this number in? The town would put this number in?
The bidder fills this
The
out.
bidder fills it. Okay, well, the bidder says this is,
Yeah, because otherwise, if you fill in a price, they'll go right up to that price if they.
Yeah.
That's
So-
exactly right.
so no, if you leave it blank, let them fill it in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so also, I'll point out to you guys, but Rose needs to figure this out with the town. Tasks 1 through 6 and 8 are fixed fee lump sum, meaning they're not an accrued time and expenses basis. They say they're going to do those tasks for $80,000. That's the only bill we see. But we don't, they just send us a bill, $80,000. We completed these tasks.
Nick, I think this is getting into the weeds of the financial department and it's not, I think we're sort of going off the rails a little bit with
Yeah.
this part. I do believe the bidding I know the bidding, as a journalist for many years who've covered this, the bidding process is blind because they can't know what the other is bidding. And once we make it public, everyone will know. So that's just the way it is.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
yeah, so you can look at the procurement process document. I mean, it's on SharePoint too. And
Start out
so there's individuals chosen to evaluate the technical or non-price proposals. They may not see the price proposals until the evaluation of the technical proposals is complete and scores are in. And then price proposals, it says the CPO or person with authority delegated will open and evaluate the price proposals. Prices are not disclosed to the individuals responsible for evaluating the non-price proposals.
Right.
And
The two-step process.
exactly. So they call it like a 2 envelope. And
Yeah.
then the most advantageous proposal is identified looking at scoring and price. And
Right.
so it's complicated, but I wouldn't like Carlene said, I wouldn't focus too much
Yeah.
on
Okay.
this.
So we have two more things to discuss.
All right,
Someone modified the terms and conditions, Dan, you said, and I want to look at the implementation schedule, please.
All right, so if you could scroll up, because this is pretty straightforward, the other direction. So you see terms and conditions. Right there. I only added the first 2 paragraphs. And I don't think I changed the other paragraphs.
So that was all part of the boilerplate.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you might highlight the first 2 so that was what was specific.
So,
That looks
That's all
fine to
good.
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I mean, we already read it, that part.
Yeah.
No one raised an objection.
No.
No, I just wanted Rose to know that it wasn't going to editing the town.
Okay.
Terms.
All right, what else we got?
Okay. And so the last one is the implementation schedule. And so that would be number 6.
What page?
Okay, we can scroll to that.
What page?
It's 9.
Page 9 of the proposal?
There it is, contract implementation schedule.
Okay.
Yes. So, I wanted to make sure that I understood this, Dan. It says project kickoff meeting, 2 weeks. Now, we're saying that the ideal would be to have this new contract in place by September, October. Okay, based on the Gantt chart, I think we had October, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but whatever. So if the project kickoff is within 2 weeks of that time, say we looked at the end of October, I said, okay, 2 weeks out is November 14th. And then it says completion of tasks 1 and 2, including presentation and meeting, another 4 weeks. That brings us to December 4th, because I took out a week for Thanksgiving.
I
Then
don't think,
Am I doing this right?
no, I gotta remember, I think these are each one of these is relative to the start date.
Okay, so it's not in addition to, so
20
2
weeks
and
would
another
be,
4 weeks.
20 weeks would be 5 months, right?
So what I counted out, I said 2 weeks,
No,
right?
you're not
November
adding them, you're not adding them. So you can just jump to the bottom, 20 weeks, gets you through task 1 through 6, kickoff through 6.
So then I came up with, well, let me count them out, but I was thinking we're already at April 2nd.
At 20 weeks?
I
Well, I
think,
don't know what the date of contract issuance is, so.
yeah, well, so I started with the end of October, only to be more on the safe side in case, I started at the end of October. So 20 weeks then would be 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's 5 months from October.
1, 2, 3, 4. We're in March, the end of March. So I said April 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tight, but you can't be unreasonable with the time that it's going to require them. So I made it as tight as I could.
Right, but my question is do we feel pretty good about that date? And then my other question is, this is from the consultant. What about the actual hiring a company to implement what we want to do? How does that fit in? I'm not clear about that.
So I think that's the responsibility of the town. So, we could wait until the whole plan's reviewed and approved by the NRC, or we could wait until some of those tasks are completed, but the whole plan may not be completed, and just start working on the bid. So you see one task there, I forget which one it is, but it's development of the specifications for the treatment measures. That's the minimum required to start to put that out to bid to those contractors. Does that make sense?
So,
Which
well,
task is that? Which number is that?
You gotta scroll up a little bit. Right, wait, hold on, I can probably get it here. It's the pond mitigation technical specifications.
6. That's the completion of task 6. That brings us out to April.
Yeah, actually, that's probably why I did it that way, the schedule that way.
So then we're looking at April 2nd, so to speak, the beginning of April. And that's when we're going to say, oh, okay, now we're looking to hire somebody to actually do the process. So that means we've got to go through the whole RFP process again. So now we've missed the summer. We've missed the time frame. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is what it is, so.
Is there any way that we can start the RFP process sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could start developing the RFP as soon as we have a pretty good idea of what the measures are going to be.
well, keep in mind, it is my understanding as an adaptive management plan, right? We may start down the road on one thing, but then as we get results back, we may change our minds and something else may be developed, right? So I'm kind of agreeing with Chris. You could start certain points. You may not have to wait until the final plan is completely written. Well, the plan can be written, but the plan can be written in such a way that it has, we're going to start with this, then we may move to this, or we may move to that as we go throughout the year.
I mean, my thinking was ideally we would hire contractors that like a contractor that could do multiple methods, right?
No,
And
I'm not
really
saying
putting
different.
out-
I'm just saying it can be
Right.
started at various times.
But I think, some of these measures also have a permit requirement.
Right.
So that's part of the schedule too.
Right. But that's not part of our current schedule, right? That's a,
Because you're reading the schedule that is intended for the pond management, not for
that's
us.
correct. But I want to know how it fits in with our actual hiring of someone, a company to actually do the work. Where does that fit in?
Well, I think that's what the Gantt chart's for, but I think relative to the RFP, I don't know that we could ask them to do the whole thing in under 5 months.
And then does that need to be explicitly stated, Chris? Because we'll just move toward that goal constantly. Why does it have to be stated in the RFP?
It doesn't. I don't think it does, but my question is, I'm okay with everything that we've written and gone through today. I'm fine with that. But my question is, this is still planning. It's still the adaptive management plan. So here we are sitting at April 2nd, 2027, and we have the plan. Okay. So now in April 2nd, we're saying, okay, now we need to write up another RFP to hire someone to actually implement.
But
the plan.
Yeah, but
wouldn't that be part of the tasks that we're drafting, that just like we did here, drafting that RFP concurrently
That's
with
what's
some of these tasks so that we're ready and locked
Yeah.
and loaded?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Carlene's right. So if you scroll up to, I think it's task 2, maybe. No, go to task 3. Sorry. Okay, when we're going to start to have a pretty good feel for what we're going to try and bid out during task 3. So I think the committee could start developing a proposal right about then. We may not be able to get it out right away, but we can get a lot of it prepared.
Okay.
And I don't think this is a script that we're shackled to. I think the idea is that this is what we're looking for the pond management committee, but we do our work concurrently.
Right.
Right, I mean,
concur.
I agree. I think that's the way to proceed. I just want to make sure that
Okay,
that's
So
something that
that's-
we
that's
can
good.
do and
it's a
agree.
good thing to bring up.
Yes,
so if we can start by March, starting to flesh out the RFP.
Exactly.
Hopefully, we could start something sometime that summer.
Yeah.
because remember, the
Without
RFP
question.
process is 4 to 5 months.
Right. So we just have
Yeah.
to put pressure on ourselves and the management consultant, whatever we call them, to get enough together that we can start working on the RFP as soon as
Right.
possible. That's on
Right.
us.
Yes, it is.
And
Okay.
we will.
And we could also be meeting with contractors during
So,
that.
so that might be something that we have to
Okay.
take into account in the RFP for selecting the management consultant, is that we need to make sure they understand that there's this milestone that we'd like to see within whatever, 3 months of the beginning of the project.
I think once we hire this person, we share our chart with them.
Well,
And
I think
they're-
they'd
Okay.
like to, I would like to know as a consultant going in that you're expecting some deliverable of significance from me in 3 months after I start.
Share the Gantt.
We
share
can
the
we can
chart.
add it
Share the
as an
Gantt chart
objective
early.
early on. So
Yeah, if you can think of a way to say that, Dan, it just put it in.
Yeah,
I try
that
to
could
put it
be-
in. Yeah, it's good for them to know that there's a milestone and what sort of milestone it is so that we can plan around it.
That we-
and I think where we had the schedule part 2, maybe we could add a sentence saying that this is the longest, but we would certainly welcome if they could do it faster.
Well, of course, but say we're looking at worst case scenario for this. I'm just trying to understand. So after, where, because completion of task 3, that's January. Kind of, that's already January. So 5 months from January, we're looking at June, May, June. To have the next RFP done, right? And someone hired. So we're looking at May, June.
Yeah, and I also don't know if the NRC has a real expectation of reviewing the draft plan, or they're just gonna say, oh yeah, it looks good, just go with it.
So maybe there's another way to approach this. Might the actual implementation work be broken down into different things that might be done by different vendors and could be started asynchronously, Dan?
Yeah, I
And
mean, each of the treatment measures, and this is not me, this is a Massachusetts guidance. If you read it, they're quite clear on it. So they have sort of the different seasonal triggers when you would optimally do them. So I think a realistic goal is just to be able to do something in the water so we can say we've, got the ball started.
momentum, we want to get momentum going.
Yeah. Even though the following year may be where we do something a little bit more substantive.
Can we, am I off mute? Can we say for task 5, one meeting including consultant presentation of draft plan as well as draft of RFP for whatever we're calling that next? So included into task 5. Task 5 seems to be a culminating thing, and that by the end of task 5, we have our RFP crafted.
So that means we're at the beginning of March.
Yes. That seems reasonable to me. We will probably draft that RFP ourselves, but obviously trigger the help of the group. But it seems like that's a culminating event for task 5.
And so then we're at August, where everything's approved and hopefully somebody hired.
And we also have other activities that the town needs to perform to put these bits out. For example, depending on what method we have, we might need specific site access for equipment, site laydown for that equipment, a place to, at least temporarily place vegetation. All that has to be worked out and given to the contractors within the bid. So there's a lot of things that we would have to go
There's a
through.
lot of stuff. Yeah. Chris, would that be okay with you to include in task 5? Tweak this to say, that and a draft and a near finished draft of the RFP. That would be at 16 weeks.
So I guess we're in a situation where that is all we can do.
Yeah.
And my underlying concern with all of this is that, I feel that we're moving forward, we're making progress, whatever, but I don't want the NRC or anybody else turning around and saying, you guys aren't doing anything. Yeah, you've done this plan and you've got this, but you're not doing anything. I don't see any action. Nothing's happening. And your 5 years are just about up.
Yeah.
So
But-
I have a real problem with that.
Well, the 5 years,
But-
according to the task force report, starts at the approval of the plan by the NRC.
So once we provide them with the adaptive management plan from the pond
Yeah,
manager.
because it's a 5-year period of actually testing out measures in an adaptive management approach.
Good point.
It's not like it took you 3 years to write the plan and then you only have 2 years left.
Yeah, I could, Chris, it's what we're almost at the point where you can go for the committee to the NRC and say, this is where we are. And this is our estimate of what's going to happen when.
Yeah.
First estimate, it's going to change, but just so you'll know.
Yeah.
You can
Folks,
replace-
I
you can
I
replace us
can't
all if
stay
it's
on the
not
call
passed.
much longer. I just want people to know I can't stay on the call much longer.
Well, I think
It's
we're
past
pretty
5,
much
yeah.
It's
towards
past
the
5
end of
and I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, fine, I'll table that discussion for the moment, but I want to approve this RFP. Do we approve this RFP going forward? I'd like
I have one point of clarification I just wanted to ask for my own benefit. I hope that's okay. And I direct this at Dan. Dan, there's one thing that y'all decided to take out, but I want to ask a question. I had asked that we seek out aquatic and wildlife experts on the recommendations for mitigation to make sure that we understand the effects to wildlife. Are you saying, so I want to make sure that that is something that we will do is make sure that if herbicides or whatever are recommended, that we go to a professional to see the effect of that. Are you saying that's baked in to whatever has to happen? Or can we not consult a professional if it's not stated?
So first of all, I wasn't against the concept. My point was that if we're going to do that activity, that is going to require it should be written as a task, because they may go hire an outside consultant to do that. They may not have that experience in-house. So in the previous studies done for the town, they hired a separate wildlife specialist. So my point is, if we're going to require that, we need to build it into the RP.
Understood. But the fact that this is being taken out is the implication of that anything can be recommended and implemented, but we don't have to consult an expert?
Well, I think there's experts in pond management in the context of this measure will mitigate this vegetation, but then there's experts in ecology, right? And I think if we want that explicitly, we need to explicitly include it.
Dan, we're going to go back over this again.
I just needed a point of clarification, Bill, because
No, I think
Chris
it's
is
a fair
asking for a
question.
vote and I didn't
Yeah.
understand something.
It's
And
I
I feel
understand,
like
but I
I
don't
have a
understand what
right to
Dan's
ask
saying.
the question.
I-
I have
I
a
wanna
right to
just-
ask the question because I didn't understand something, Bill.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
I'm arguing with
And-
that. I don't understand where Dan's headed. Because Dan,
No,
if we're going to use herbicides, they have to do an environmental and a wildlife impact of some sort, won't they? It's required. If you're going to do a drawdown, it's required.
It's
You're
an
gonna do
NOI.
some
You have to
wildlife
say it.
surveys.
It's an NOI.
What's that?
What does that mean, Nick? I don't know what that means.
It has to go to NRC and that's
Yeah.
gonna be part of the review.
Intent.
It's part of the review. It has to happen. So why are we wasting, putting it into the proposal again? We already know that has to happen. Correct?
I think they're both correct, but I do think Carlene's point is valid. In the previous studies, they decided to do a wildlife survey that required hiring a specialty consultant to perform that task. And that survey was considered when they looked at the first round of treatment options. So that process is a little bit over and above what's required just to get a permit. I want to point that out. Permits are going to be very specific. So I think Carlene's point is well taken. I just feel like if, as a group, we want to include it, we should be explicitly including it. Because the consultant's going to come back and say, well, I'm not a specialist in wildlife. Do you want me to hire somebody? And we should
Let's
just
talk about it when we hire the consultant. Let's move on. It's already after 5 to do this and to go back over this now. Rose, you're
So
muted.
yeah, I have a pretty hard stop. I have maybe 2 minutes and I gotta go.
So I think if we come to that point and we need to hire somebody, then we deal with it at that point. But like Nick and Bill said, who are both on the NRC, you need a notice of intent. We are keeping in here a narrative that spells out the proposer's experience in working with wildlife-rich areas. So if they've demonstrated that experience and understanding, then I would have to believe that we will work with them. And I think the NRC will support us with that.
Yeah.
But is there any other point in the process, Chris, please forgive me, and Dan, that can be baked in, that a consultant has to be asked to see what the mitigation is for what any mitigation, what its impact is on wildlife? If it's not in this, can it be baked into something else?
Well, we have it in the criteria. You included it in the minimum proposer criteria, so we have it in there.
Their experience I asked for, but not the check-in with an expert.
Yeah, I mean,
What about the next thing what about the next RFP, Chris, in terms of the group that's actually doing it? Like,
Well, then I think that we discuss it then.
I'm asking because I can't support this unless I know that at some point we're going to check in with a professional about the mitigating effects on wildlife of anything we choose to do. I just think it's our responsibility.
Well, we did already vote on all these points.
I
So-
know, I was asking if it could be baked into the next RFP for the people who are actually going to do the work. Is that theoretically possible, Dan?
Let's
I
discuss
think,
it going forward.
It would not be the next RFP, it would be this RFP. And I realize this is kind of a, it's a process that we're going through. It's a little painful, and I know everybody's in a hurry to get it and move on, but I do think Carlene's point is a reasonable point. And I think it can be inserted in a couple of places. One, it can be inserted in the qualification requirements. We can require that the consultant demonstrate expertise in consideration of wildlife and habitat and evaluation and treatment alternatives. So we know we're going to get somebody that has that capability.
Yeah, you just put that in. Didn't we just put that in as the last point that Carlene made, and we voted on that?
No,
No,
that was
think of
just
it.
included in the proposal. That was just a request for the proposal,
I think
a narrative.
we already voted on it. We discussed this, we talked about it, we voted on it. I think we're done.
And a future RFP for herbicides, of course, we can put it in the future.
Right.
But on this, you want to just wrap this up. This is going to take forever.
Yeah, I know, Bill, but this is our one time to do this. So
Isn't
I'd say
let me give you an example. We're going to want to change the coverage and biovolume of some of these species. One way to look at that is I just want a clear channelway of clear water so I can paddle my boat. Another way to look at that is what's the appropriate amount of coverage?
Exactly.
when you're dealing with the person, Dan, we will deal with that question. This is a simple request for a proposal to bring the consultants in that we're going to work with.
Right, but we can't deal with the consultant. We can't deal with it later if the consultant doesn't have that capability. And we haven't asked for that capability. So-
Let Dan draft it and put it in. I think it's safe. It's not going to mess up the process. It doesn't conflict with anything else we're doing.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a killer, but I think it would be good to have it in there because you can they're not going to come back later and say, well, you didn't ask for that.
All right. Okay. Well, but I want us to vote on this thing before we finish. And Dan, you and Chris can work out that common language. I'd be happy with that. But then let's just get a vote going.
So what's the process if there still has to be something added? Sorry,
Why don't we
Rose.
trust that
And we
Chris and
vote on
Dan
it with
will
an
figure
amendment.
out the language for that?
I think that we've all had a chance to go through this. Okay. And I was hopeful that we could have had comments sooner so that, at least like Dan and I and Rose could have sat down and gone through the comments prior to coming to this meeting so that this meeting would have been a little bit faster, shall we say, would have been more efficient. So we're not at that point. We've had a lot of discussions about what should be in the RFP, what should not be in it, whatever. I think that at this stage of the game, we vote for it to move forward with this RFP. Dan and I can look at, as Bill suggested, look at adding in something about having some sort of professional expertise or information about the wildlife. But we've voted specifically on your comments. And if you can trust that Dan and I will come up with something, then I would like to move forward so that we can get this process started, because otherwise we're just delaying it.
Yeah, go ahead and write it.
Yeah, go ahead and write it. I'm happy with it. I'm sure it'll be okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this with the amendments that Chris and Dan put in terms of professional wildlife experience.
Agree. Second.
Okay.
So the clarification is that Chris, you, Dan, and I will come
No,
up
I
with
didn't
some
say you,
language.
I didn't say you,
Dan-
Carlene. I said Dan. I don't want to make this too large. Dan and Chris would do this, and that's it. And then let those two who worked on this all along work this out.
So we have a
I-
motion, we have a second.
Call for a vote.
Do we vote to approve that with an edit about having some sort of professional input experience?
Just one question before we vote, because I don't think I kind of have it in my head what we could say, so this is not going to take long. Is it an option to vote to approve it with that assumption, but that we could also, over the next couple of days, distribute that paragraph or a few sentences?
You can't do that in terms of open meeting law.
Because then we have to have another meeting to vote.
All right, okay.
Vote on it, get it done, and we'll trust you. That's my sense.
Why can't I have part of
Because
that
Colleen, you
conversation?
have a strong opinion about things. And let these
Well,
two.
this is why I was elected to the committee, because
Did you
I
ask
care
me?
about the topic.
Did you ask me? These two have worked on this thing from top to bottom. Let them finish their job. That's
I
why.
want them to finish the job, but there's something that I find very important, Bill, and I'm sorry, I don't think it makes sense to relent. Why can't I?
You're getting what you want. These two will put it in. Dan's agreed with you.
Well,
Yes, I understand. I just don't know why I can't.
Let them do
Work
it.
with
Let them
them.
do the work.
Hey, Carlene, I don't want to speak to the rules of the meeting and all that stuff, but I think since we can't distribute the language, I think I understand what you're looking for, and I'm actually in agreement with you. I will give it a fair shot. And I think if it's completely unacceptable, at the end of the day, the proposal can be amended. We can always amend the proposal and reissue it.
Okay,
Or we could just say, the town's going to look at it for another 2 weeks, probably.
Mhm.
I have a motion on the floor to vote to have you two
All right.
write an amended version of that one piece, but we would approve of this draft,
That edit.
And I seconded.
and it's been
right.
seconded.
Okay, so let's vote on it. All those in favor, raise your hand.
As long as the edit is included, I agree.
Okay.
That's what we're voting on.
That's what we're voting
Okay.
for.
Done.
Okay, so the motion is passed. The RFP has been approved with that edit.
Yes.
Excellent. Any public comments?
Did we have any public?
They were there at one point. They probably all scattered. I don't know where they are.
Okay, so no public comments. We will not discuss the Gantt chart today, but we know that it has to be probably, we'll look at it at our next meeting.
When's the next meeting in time? Did we post that or?
Yes, we did. The next meeting, it's the first Thursday of the month. So therefore, the next meeting, and it's posted on the website,
Okay, good. At 3 p.m.
August 6th at 3.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, good.
All right. Everyone, so no questions. Have a nice day.